I think my dad just came over here so he could get a better lifestyle and he could send my grandma money so she could get a better house in Guatemala and stuff.
And my dad convinced my mother to move from Japan to the United States to start a family.
The people who are coming from Ireland, they didn't really want to leave Ireland, but there was a lot of persecution by the British of Irish people in Ireland at the time. Irish people couldn't find jobs, Irish people couldn't own property. And
my father immigrated to the United States in the 80s from Ethiopia. He came here to escape being drafted in some war that was going on.
The American Dream. Many people view America as the land of opportunity. And according to reference.com, people see America as the land of opportunity because the country is able to provide them with a variety of life options that they would not have in their own country or other countries, such as the economic stability and the education resource. As seen in the video, many immigrants hope for a better life here in America, but seeking for a better life in America is not as easy as they thought it would be. We chose our topic to be what it feels like to be an immigrant, to get a closer look on these people who left their own country for a new life. We will also go through the history, demographics, and statistics of immigrants here in America. We will also talk about the hardship and the challenges immigrants encounter when they move here in America. We hope that by the end of this presentation, you will have an overview of what it feels like to be an immigrant, because we believe that knowledge is the key to understanding, and understanding differences between people all around the world leads to a peaceful world. Embracing diversity is really important, especially in a diverse country like the United States of America.
According to John F. Kennedy on A Nation of Immigrants, this was the secret of America, a nation of people with a fresh memory of old traditions who dared to explore new frontiers. People eager to build their lives for themselves in a spacious society and did not restrict their freedom of choice and actions. The history of immigration. At the time of the first census in 1790, most U.S. residents were of English, Irish, and German descent. But a majority of the immigrants in the 18th century were Africans forced into slavery. This number dropped steeply in 1808 after Congress banned the slave trade. Between 1820 and 1840, the Industrial Revolution drew thousands from Europe who came looking for work in factories and on railroads. Immigrants from China began arriving in San Francisco in the 1850s as the word of gold rush spread. At the same time, millions of Irish came to the U.S. seeking refuge from the Great Famine. The introduction of steam-powered ships made the journey to the U.S. faster and cheaper for immigrants between 1860 and the 1880s. Except for Chinese laborers who would be banned from entering the U.S. for the next 60 years due to the Exclusion Act of 1882. Immigration surged at the turn of the century, with many coming to the U.S. looking for an escape from violence abroad, including Jews fleeing pogroms in Russia, Mexicans displaced by the revolution, and Armenians escaping genocide. After World War I, the U.S. instituted quotas to reduce the flow of immigrants. Immigration was slowed even further by the Depression and the start of World War II. The U.S. accepted over 400,000 immigrants victimized by the war through the Displaced Persons Act of 1948. Lyndon Johnson removed the quota system in 1965. Asian immigration quadrupled in 5 years, with many escaping the war in the Southeast Asia. In 1986, Ronald Reagan signed the Immigration Reform Act, granting amnesty to over 3 million aliens. Immigration to the U.S. continued to rise through the 90s and to the 2000s, especially from Asia, Mexico, and the Caribbean. Today, more than 1 in 8 Americans are immigrants, and almost all are descendants of immigrants. Less than 2% of the U.S. population have Native Americans as ancestors. According to Business Insider, The website shows a chart of the growing population here in America. More and more people migrate to the United States every year. Another chart shows the race of the people who migrate to the United States. More Latin America and Asians are coming to the United States. We will talk about the reasons in later section. In 2014, about 1 million permanent immigrants entered the United States. 41% were immediate relatives of U.S. citizens. 23% entered through a family sponsored. 15% were employment-based. 13% were adjusted from a refugee or asylee status. And 5% were diversity lottery winners. The top 5 countries where the permanent immigrants come from are Mexico, India, China, Philippines, and Cuba. Immigrating to the United States legally is a lengthy and costly process, which requires patience and motivation, and mental preparedness. Whether it is saving money to pay for legal fees or overcoming life obstacles and jumping through hoops to make the difficult process as easy as possible. The wait period to legally migrate to the United States can take anywhere from 1 to 20 years. According to an article by Lona Bray, a doctor of jurisprudence, as of 2016, the fee for the I-45 for most applicants was $1,070, which include biometrics fee, as well as the application fee for work permit, Form I-765. This does not include attorney fees, which can range anywhere from $600 to $2,000.
Reasons they migrate. There are several push factors that cause people to migrate. People leave their homeland or families in search for a different destiny, for a different opportunity. They leave to find what they're missing. There are 4 main reasons for immigration. Environmental. Certain places have terrible climate or weather conditions and people want to get away from that. Also, climate plays a big role on food supply and can cause some places to have scarce amount. Mother Nature can also cause its disasters, thus having people move to another location. 2. Political. A major push factor can be due to violence and political insecurity, and some people flee because their country is at war and want to get away from the crimes. 3. Economic. One of the main reasons for migration is unemployment. The newcomers are determined to find money. Money is the motive, and people want to move where the money is at. They want the opportunity to escape poverty and want their children to have their opportunities that they never did. And lastly, cultural. People search for religious freedom or can even be searching for a better education. These are among a few reasons why people migrate. Living as an American. Those who move to America are faced with several problems. A few of those problems consist of language barriers, cultural differences, prejudice and racism, and isolation. 1. Adapting and learning the new language is one of the biggest issues. The need to be able to communicate can affect their entire life. They need to interact with others, to find jobs, grocery shop, any small task requires communication. 2. One of the biggest impressions is the cultural differences. People experience situations that may seem abnormal. For instance, social customs, attitudes towards different genders, religious diversity, ethnicity, or sexuality. Even though it is a dramatic change, immigrants must accept the values will be different. But remember that even though they are accepting these values, they don't necessarily have to make them their own. 3. One of the saddest things to face is prejudice and racism, yet it is something that happens. And lastly, isolation. Not having the support from family and friends, or simply missing them. When people move, they feel alienated and disoriented. I remember when I was little asking my mother, who's an immigrant from Mexico, if she missed it over there and why. And she told me, yes, I miss my childhood, I miss having my friends and family, but most importantly, I miss my freedom. It was a shocker because how can someone who lives in the land of the free not feel free, but rather isolated? In this section, I'm going to discuss the most common myths about immigrants. It has been said that immigrants have a negative impact on the economy and take jobs away from citizens. Also, that immigrants don't want to learn English, nor do they want to become citizens. It is said that immigrants don't pay taxes and bring high crime to our cities and towns. And lastly, it is said that most immigrants are undocumented and have crossed the border illegally.
Well, in fact, a study has showed that immigration has a positive effect on the American economy as a whole and on the income of the native born workers. Immigrants have different skills and all contribute differently, also bringing a positive effect on wages of American workers. Well, for number two, that is not true. Well, actually, immigrants believe they need to learn English in order to succeed in the United States, and the majority uses at least some English at work. Immigrants are accused of refusing to want to learn English or to otherwise assimilate. Many first generation Latino immigrants are unable to speak English, but 88% of their US born children speaks English fluently. Many immigrants seek citizenship, even in face of difficult requirements and the huge backlogs that can delay the process for years. Getting citizenship has become more difficult and more costly. Almost all immigrants pay income taxes, even though they can't benefit from most federal and state local assistance programs. And all immigrants pay sales and property taxes. All immigrants, documented or undocumented, pay the same real estate taxes. Undocumented immigrants also pay income taxes, even though they're unable to claim tax refund, social security benefits, or other welfare benefits. And also, a study has shown that immigrants are actually far less likely to commit crimes than their native born counterparts, even as the undocumented population has increased in the United States. Crime rates have decreased significantly. And lastly, two-thirds of American immigrants are here lawfully, either naturalized citizens or in some other lawful status, like the legal residents. Moreover, almost half of all undocumented immigrants enter the United States legally.
The following video shows the experience that a teenage immigrant went through.
When I came, everything looked the same. Brown, tall, and I don't know, dark. Everything was totally different. I felt myself so strange, and I didn't know where I was, and I just wanted to go back. The first time I went to school, it was so scary. My sister and I didn't know what to do. I remember I was wearing black sneakers and tight jeans. It's like I was out of fashion. People could see that I was new. I was a newcomer. The first struggle was the language. I was very sad going to school and being not able to communicate with other people, and for a time I became mute. I just listened and listened, and I couldn't figure it out. Not even a word of what they were saying. Not even one word. And I was sweating. I felt like I was getting smaller and smaller, and the world was getting bigger and bigger. It was totally frustrated for me. I pulled my hair all over, and I cried. I cried for about 6 months. I was feeling very pressured in a way because I wanted to do good, but I couldn't.
Editor, where are you?
Terms like discrimination, prejudice, stereotype, I never heard those terms in my country. I learned them here. I remember someone saying that the Dominicans in Washington Heights, they are all drug addicts. I remember my teacher always telling us that you should go to college, you should continue your education and show the Americans that you're not here to be a rat. I think the fact that my father in that same year came to the United States and lived with us made me more, I don't know, it really made me move on.
Isn't it gorgeous? That's cool. Not this picture.
So when I was in 8th grade, we were working in groups in the class. I always had my dictionary in front of me to look up words. I started to speak. Can I get the negatives? Yes. Okay. 2 years ago, I really didn't want to become a citizen. It was that kind of feeling, am I gonna lose my Dominican tradition? Am I gonna lose a Dominican part of myself? 11 years of my life were there. My childhood is entirely there. I think the peaceful side of myself is there, and the struggle, when the challenges and achievements of myself since I was growing up here, they're still here. I mean, they're building up here in the United States. I want to be somebody with a profession that could help the community, not only Hispanic community, but the whole community, because I think that since we're all human beings, we have to help each other one way or another.
In conclusion, United States of America is a nation of immigrants. We've been letting people in to help build the community and the economy. Yet now we are so uncomfortable with it. Americans are too afraid to lose their jobs. Well, in fact, more people leads to more demand that creates more jobs in the country. And also, immigrants, documented or not, pays taxes. I'm not saying that all immigrants are good. Some are good and some are bad. But we're not talking about immigration here. Immigration will always be controversial. We just wanted you to put yourself in the eyes of an immigrant because we wanted to build a bridge between the Americans and the new Americans to stop discrimination, to stop racism, and to stop stereotyping.